Hey everyone. So a little while back somewhere, I mentioned that I was going to do another video um, about a relapse that I had in my TMS. And every so often, I posted a thread about it on the TMS Wiki's TMS forum. And every so often, people bump that thread up and they say, "Hey, you ever going to do this?" And I figure it's about time that I do. Uh, I guess it's important to do because I'm forgetting the story actually as time goes by. Um, but since then, I've developed a name for this relapse. I guess that's kind of strange, but I do talk a lot about TMS. So this one I kind of call the suicide scapula, which is kind of a strange name. It's not me committing suicide, and no one actually did, but it is it's something. It's TMS symptoms that I got when people who I knew started talking about the possibility of them committing suicide, and because of the emotional turmoil that brought into my life. So there was actually two people who did this within the space of a year, I think. And in in both cases, I guess it brought up a lot of feelings in me. Um, so, uh, yeah, I mean, when that happens, I'll say that in both cases I had complex feelings, and uh, I think that when someone approaches you like that, and it threw my life into turmoil. So I probably also, I mean, I think one thing that we learn in TMS is that the id is completely selfish and it's a part of us, and we kind of need to own that. It's part of our divided mind, to use the title of Dr. Sarno's book. Um, and it's kind of the instigator of a lot of TMS, and it is often in conflict with the superego, which is saying, the id says this is what you want from a purely selfish position, and the superego says, no, this is what you should do. The superego maybe is where our perfectionism and goodism lives. So in both cases, the I think I had recovered from my TMS maybe 3 to 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years prior. My previous TMS had been about my hands from typing, this area bilaterally from handwriting. For a couple areas, the insertion of the deltoid muscle was a big one, the back of the neck, and basically the upper half of my trapezius muscle was a big source of pain. My right knee was a big issue. Um, uh, right foot plantar fascia was another issue. Um, but not this. This was a different symptom that came up. It was underneath my right scapula. So the scapula is kind of like the chicken wing thing in the back of your back. And that started hurting, particularly when I used my right arm. And it really hurt. The first time it wasn't, I mean, it hurt a lot, but I could use the arm. The second time I would lift my arm and I would just, like I am clearly not going to do anything with that, with my right arm at this moment. Um, I mean, some people find it very effective to push through the pain. I think I had an intuition at this point that would turn the pain into a bigger issue in my life. And if reading lots and lots of stories on the forums have taught me anything, it's that the TMS wants to distract you. The TMS wants to become the focus of your life. And the best way to, I often think in terms of classical conditioning. I took psychology in college, so I guess those ideas are in my head. I think in terms of classical conditioning, that's Pavlov's dog, if you've ever heard, ring a bell, the dog starts salivating. I also think just very simple reactions like that. I think about that's how the unconscious mind works. And I think about Skinner's behaviorism. I think there's something validity in that model. So where am I going with this? Hold on, I'm going to pause. That was it. So I think that I think of my unconscious as like internally, like everybody has their own model, and I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just saying that this is what makes sense and works for me. But I think of it as being conditioned in there, classically conditioned. It's a behavioral, primitive. Some people call it the paleo-mammalian brain, and my job is to to make that conditioned response go. The technical term is extinct, and you do that by not reinforcing it. If it creates pain, and then I focus on it entirely, then that's going to teach it, hey, this really works. I'm going to create more pain because then I don't have to think about these complex, conflicted feelings that I have about what just happened. And if that's what my unconscious mind doesn't want to think about, if it's trying to distract me from this chaos in my life surrounding this suicide disclosure or thoughts of suicide, I felt like I was being controlled, etc. Then I'm encouraging my TMS to do that even more. So I decided not to do that. I said I'm going to totally ignore my TMS symptoms. I generally think that's the best way to make your TMS go extinct, is to just ignore it. Do not let it distract you at all. Do not let it become a big part of your life. It wants to be a huge part of your life. And so I ignored it, and sure enough, the first time it happened, I think within 3 days, again, some time's passed, I don't remember the details exactly. Within about 3 days, though, it was gone. So that was great. 9 months later, another person with whom I had another complicated relationship. The first one was complicated because of the context in which it happened. The second one was complicated because my relationship with this person. The second one was where I felt controlled. The first one was more about the chaos that it injected into my life. But it was kind of amazing. Like again, maybe the first time it was after like a day or two. I don't remember that. That's maybe right. The second time, I think it was after 3 days. I woke up in my bed and I reached up for something, and that was when it was really significant pain. And the first time I could kind of let my arm dangle and it might hurt a little bit. But again, the goal for me is always just ignore it. Don't even think about it. It doesn't matter. But that wasn't going to work the second time because it would be excruciating pain, just the arm dangling there. And so what I ended up doing, and this is controversial, I could get some flack for this, is I took like this, like kind of this ribbon-like thing I had. It's, I don't know what it is. Anyway, I had it. And I made a sling out of it, and I just hung my right arm like that and went about my business completely disregarding the TMS. Now, I think that's the key. That's the key for me, is disregarding the TMS. It doesn't matter. What I want to emphasize here is that I knew that it was TMS, and the goal was to be able to ignore it. When I pay attention, I'm reinforcing the TMS, and I didn't want to do that. And it went away in a couple days. Same thing roughly happened the second time. Excruciating pain. Sorry. I guess I am talking about the second time. It went away. Both times it went away within a couple days, so it really doesn't matter which one I'm talking about. Yeah. And that's what happened. That's my suicide scapula relapse. I'm going to pause for a second and see if there's anything else I want to say. Like I said, I'm trying to do this in one take. I just want to say, me wearing the sling, it feels a little bit like Steve-O, where he had his wife beating his legs. So it's something that could get a lot of attention. I don't really want it to. But if you've had a lot of symptoms for a long time, you may find that using something like that is a bad idea. It worked for me because I knew I had 100% faith that it was TMS. I think the importance of not using anything physical is because because the core is accepting the diagnosis, in my experience. So I think what's important is that this was a short relapse. I am blessed with having TMS that may have gone on for 18 years and may have affected my life in that, but my recoveries have been fairly simple. So I'm really blessed with that. But that's pretty much the story. I hope it helps. I forgot to mention, I'm going to be making a thread about this at the TMS Wiki's TMS forums. I will put the thread, this is what you're supposed to do right on YouTube, down in the comments below. So you can click on there. It's a great place to ask questions. There tend to be great comments there from people who really know their stuff. So if you have questions or want to ask me a question, you can sign in using Facebook there, or you can make an anonymous account. It only takes a second. There you go.